Yes, I am happy with your response for the kidney chapter. Now we will move on to immunity. Right? Yes, question number 1. All of the following are functions of CD4 helper T cells except this, you can try this level. Is immunogenic memory a part of function of helper T cells? Induce immunoglobulin production, activate macrophages, activate NK cells? Yes, we will see. So, immune system, the two important cells of the immune system are the T lymphocytes and the B lymphocytes. B lymphocytes, to understand, it is very simple. The complex ones are the T lymphocytes because they are the masters, they are always complex, and we have 3 subsets for T lymphocytes: helper T cells, cytotoxic T cells and regulatory T cells. So, T cells is regulatory, helper and cytotoxic. Some, not many, will consider regulatory under helper T cells because again you can see they are also CD4 positivity, it is just subset of helper T cells. That is why some will not prefer considering regulatory T cells as a separate entity, it is not going to matter much. And helper T cells, we have Th1 and Th2, we will see the individual functions little later. Do you want to add anything else to this subset? Good, Th17. Apart from this, do you like to add anything else? Superb. Akshara, Khadija, anything else you would like to add as a subset of helper T cells? I am just waiting for the online students to come up with this answer. No. Yeah. Even memory T cells are subsets of helper T cells, right. So, broadly T lymphocytes, helper, cytotoxic, regulatory and helper T cells, Th1, Th2, Th17 and memory T cells, right. And Th1 will mediate which response? Th1 is for type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, Th2 for type 1 hypersensitivity reaction, Th17 for autoimmune diseases, right. So, helper T cells broadly classified into effector and memory. Under effector, we have these 3 subtypes Th1, Th2, Th17, and just remember these cytokines. Th1 secrete, that means the cytokines associated with Th1 response are IL-2, IL-12 and interferon gamma, and the cytokines associated with Th2 response are IL-4, 5, 13, even IL-10. The interleukins associated with Th17 are Th17, 21, 22, 23. So, they are mainly associated with the recruitment of more and more number of neutrophils. Where do you have continuous recruitment of inflammatory cells? Autoimmune disorders. There is continuous ongoing inflammation and destruction. And then cytotoxic T lymphocytes with CD8 plus marker, they have anti-tumor and antiviral immunity. This function of cytotoxic T cells is shared with NK cells. Good. So, normal CD4 CD8 ratio includes is 2:1. Remember the MHC for CD4 is MHC2, MHC for CD8 the same 2:1, CD4 is to CD8 2:1. So, functions of helper T cells, Th1 we have seen which immune response is mounted by Th1 subset. 1 is never for 1, Th1 is not for type 1 hypersensitivity, it is for type 4 hypersensitivity. So, you can just recollect what are the events that happens with type 4 hypersensitivity. So, the heroes of type 4 hypersensitivity is macrophages, epithelial cells. So, they basically activate macrophages and they mediate delay type hypersensitivity, and they can also activate cytotoxic T lymphocytes because granulomas are not the only event of type 4 hypersensitivity, right. Type 4 delay type hypersensitivity, it is not always granuloma. So, it's cytotoxicity basically. That cytotoxicity is due to activation of CD8 plus cells. So, apart from activating macrophages, this Th1 subset of helper T cells also activate cytotoxic lymphocytes. What are the cytokines of Th1 response? Interleukin 12 to income. Super. So that's about Th1. Th2, it is associated with which type of hypersensitivity? Type 1. So the most important antibody for type 1 hypersensitivity is IgE. So what drives this IgE production is this Th2. So they'll stimulate the B cells to mature into plasma cells and induce antibody, IgE antibody production. Next. This is what happens. So macrophage, this mechanism will come into detail little later. So when antigen presenting cells process and present antigen to helper T cells, they activate cytotoxic T cell mounting cell mediated immunity. They will activate macrophages mounting type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. They will activate B cells, induce IgE production mounting type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. So this is what happens. So B cell, unless it gets a signal from helper T cell, it is not going to produce any immunoglobulin. So only when it is induced by this helper T cells, it will undergo, next, just look at it. So it will differentiate into plasma cell resulting in antibody secretion. So though antibody formation is a function of a B cell, but coordination by helper T cell should be there for B cell differentiation, right. So without B cell help, B cells are worthless. So this is what happens in short. Antigen presenting cell processing and presenting antigen to a helper T cell, and this CD4 helper T cells inducing B cells inducing antibody production mounting type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. CD4 helper T cell activating macrophages mounting type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. CD4 helper T cells activating killer cells, both cytotoxic lymphocytes and NK cells mounting again type 4 hypersensitivity reaction, cytotoxicity, right. So all these cells will be activated by helper T cells. That is why they are rightly called as the master regulatory cells of immune system. They are the masters. So it's the subsets. So TH helper T cells, TH1, TH2, TH17. Apart from this, you have memory T cells, and this is what I said. Some would like to consider regulatory T cells as a subset of helper T cells itself. Okay. What is a marker of regulatory T cells? Which is a marker? So apart from CD4, these regulatory T cells will be having CD25 on their surfaces that marks them as regulatory, right. So you can make out over here, go back, you can make out over here like TH1 mediate cell mediated immunity, the cytokines are IL-2, IL-12, interferon gamma. This TH2, IL-4, 5, 6, 10, 13. So all these are involved in type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. We will be revising this quite number of times before the end of the session, right. So TH17, IL-17, IL-21, IL-22, even IL-23 main role in autoimmune disorders, right. So now all of the following are functions of CD4 helper cells except, now your answer is none of the above. So everything is a function of helper T cells, the masters. Next. So the following interleukins produce in TH1 response. TH1 for type 4 hypersensitivity. Type of, remember, recollect the granuloma formation pathogenesis. IL-2, 12, interferon gamma. Same thing. So TH1, IL-2, 12, interferon gamma. TH2, IL-4, 5, 6, 10 and 13. TH17, it is not given over here, I am sorry. IL-17, 21, 22, 23. Again the same thing, next. So the next, so the answer will be IL-2 and IL-12. Next. So subsets of lymphocytes, helper cytotoxic, regulatory. Next, subsets of helper T cells, effector and memory. Under effector you have TH1, to 17. Cytokines of Th1 response, interferon gamma, IL-2, 12. Cytokines of Th2 response, IL-4, 5, 6, 13, 10 and 13. Good. What is common with IL-10 and 13? What function they have mainly? See, apart from this hypersensitive reaction, what is their important role? They come under IL-10, IL-13, TGF-beta. Yeah, how they help healing and repair? Now, basically, see, we have cytokines, a big family, lot of members in that family. So, broadly we classify cytokines into either they favor inflammation or they are against inflammation. They are anti-inflammatory or pro-inflammatory. We have long list of pro-inflammatory cytokines, most importantly IL-1, IL-6, interferon gamma, TNF. In any inflammatory condition, be it acute or acute and chronic, you will find elevation of these IL-1, 6, 12, TNF, interferon gamma and all, right. But there are only few cytokines which are associated with anti-inflammatory activity. Those are IL-10, IL-13 and TGF-beta. So, these three are anti-inflammatory cytokines. It is better to remember the anti-inflammatory cytokines very well. All the rest will be pro-inflammatory, like that. So, antigen presenting cells are next. Now, we can try answering at this level. Which cells do you think among the choices as antigen presenting cells? Good, Langerhans cells. Macrophages, good. We will see. So, what is the role? Why do we need the role of antigen presenting cells? It is because T cells, as they are the masters, they cannot go and take their food by themselves. They are the masters, they will stay in their palace, they have lot of servants for the food to be supplied to them. So, antigens are basically their food, they are going to do the phagos, they are going to mediate the phagocytosis and everything. So, they have lot of mediators for the functions. That is why the role of antigen presenting cells. So, what do these antigen presenting cells do is, they just first they have to sense the antigen, recognize the antigen, phagocytose, they have to take in the antigen, then they have to process and present it to the T cells, as T cells cannot be activated by soluble antigens by themselves. So, these antigen presenting cells take up the antigens, process it, make it simplify, make it delicious rather for the T lymphocytes to be taken care of. So, is that all the function played by antigen presenting cells? In addition, they do a very important step called activation of T cells. It is not just passive taking up presentation, processing and presenting. They will very importantly activate the masters. So, T lymphocytes will be activated by antigen presenting cells. So, what do they do while processing? It is, say for example, this is a complex carbohydrate sensed by this antigen presenting cell, engulf, taken inside, and this will be simplified and food is being cooked. The raw food is being cooked for the T cells, and when the food is cooked, the food is fed through a spoon. So, they are masters, they will take only with golden spoon like that. So, that spoon is being prepared inside the antigen presentation cell. The spoon is MHC. So, when the food is getting cooked, the spoon is also prepared, and you can see the food is presented with the spoon on the surface of the antigen presenting cells. So, when antigen presenting cell, for example, a dendritic cell, recognize the antigen, take up the antigen, process it, it produces, manufactures also the MHC to be delivered to the T lymphocyte. So, only when the food is presented with this particular spoon, the T lymphocyte will take up, will accept the antigen. Next, double click, one more. So, any cell that expresses MHC1 has taken up the antigen, processed and presented, presenting the antigen with MHC1 to the T cells will be accepted. The T cells will take up the antigen through T cell receptor. So, food is presented by MHC, taken by T cell receptors. So, this is the first signal for T cell activation, right. So, and where do you get expression of MHC1? MHC1, I mean the expression, which cells express MHC1? All nucleated cells, meaning other than platelets and RBCs, every cell can have MHC expression. Not always, they will be expressing only on necessity, like that, right. And where do you have MHC2 expression? Good. Where do you have MHC2 expression? Not just Vivechana has come up with antigen presenting cells, but Cardia has come up with immune cells. So, cells of immune system, all the cells of immune system will express MHC2. So, which MHC will be expressed in macrophages? On macrophages. Macrophages can express which MHC? I am just waiting for them to come up with the answer. MHC2, MHC2, MHC2. See, understand one thing. I can agree with you that macrophages, being an antigen presenting cell, you all are saying that will express MHC2. Is it not a nucleated cell? So, cells of immune system will have both the expression of MHC1 and MHC2. That is the difference. So, all nucleated cells will have MHC1, whereas cells of immune system will have both MHC1 and MHC2. You got the difference? Right. Here in this particular case, it's any nucleated cell that is present in the antigen by MHC1. So, when MHC1, through MHC1 food is given, which lymphocytes will take up? CD8. So, they are very particular about the food and the spoon. They will divide CD8 and CD4 lymphocytes divide their work. Exogenous antigen will be taken care of by CD4. Endogenous antigen will be taken care of by CD8. You can wonder then how virus infected cells, tumor cells are taken care of by CD8. It is basically the virus affects the cell's protein gets altered. So, it actually becomes a endogenous. Likewise, the tumor, expression of the self protein gets altered. It is not considered as a foreign protein. So, endogenous antigens are taken care of by CD8 lymphocytes and exogenous antigens are taken care of by CD4 lymphocytes. Likewise, CD4 lymphocytes can accept the food only when presented with which MHC? MHC class 2. For 4 it is 2. CD8 lymphocytes can accept antigen only when it is fed through MHC 1. What is the normal CD4 CD8 ratio? 2:1. 2 class 2 for CD4, class 1 for CD8. Next. So, this is what happens. So, an antigen is taken by antigen presenting cell. When they present the antigen, a resting cell gets converted to an activated T cells. Not just processing and presenting, there is also activation of T lymphocyte, which is the most important event. Next. So, antigen presenting cells are macrophages, dendritic cells, Langerhans cells. Of course, all are macrophage family. You will not have any doubt with this. Apart from this, even B lymphocytes can process and present antigens, right. So, they can also present it to their masters. Even B lymphocytes dependent on T lymphocytes. Only when T lymphocytes activate, B lymphocytes can form antibodies. So, even B lymphocytes can present antigen to their masters. So, dendritic cells are the most efficient APCs. CD4 helper T cells are activated. Why am I holding like this? CD4 helper T cells are activated only when presented with MHC2. CD8 cytotoxic T cells are activated only when presented with MHC1. This is what is called as MHC restriction. They are very particular about this. There can be no exception in this. This is structure of the T cell receptor. So, what we are now seen is all about signal 1. Antigen presenting cell taking up the antigen, processing and presenting to the T cells, given through MHC, taken up through T cell receptor. Be specific about your answers, okay? T cell receptors. That is signal 1. This is not all that is enough for T cell activation. It requires one more signal for the activation, that is signal 2. There is presence of co-stimulatory molecules on surface of, next, just follow with me, you can please be seated, no, I will feel better. So, the co-stimulatory molecules on the surface, complementary expression on the surface of both the antigen presenting cells and the T lymphocytes should be engaged for effective delivery of activation. Right. Only when this second signal is delivered, then T cells can be activated. This mechanism you should understand for you to understand autoimmunity also, we will come back to it later, right. It comes as a mechanism of tolerance. So, this is a must for these two signals, is a must for T cell activation. What will happen if there is just one signal and the second signal is absent? That is called as anergy. That is called, and that is with just only one signal, there is no engagement of second co-stimulatory molecules, then the T cells become anergic. They will be alive, they will become functionless, useless, worthless, like that. So, there should be delivery of two signals for the effective functioning of T lymphocytes. Which cells process and present antigens for B lymphocytes? I think you can put a chair and sit. If you can see the screen, I think it will be better for you, for to coordinate. I am sorry, I am troubling you. You can sit a chair and take a chair and sit over here. Which cells do process and present antigens for B lymphocytes? Akshara has come up with the answer as dendritic cells. Which cells will process and present antigens for B lymphocytes? They are the masters. Servants cannot work for the cells that are not masters. B lymphocytes can take up antigens by themselves. So, through the surface immunoglobulin receptors. The surface immunoglobulin act as receptors. Through them, they will take up the antigen, then do their same series of steps follows with them. No MHC required. MHC is required only for to be presented to T cells, but here it is not required. They can take up and process the antigens and do it the way they want to. Of course, signals to come from T cells. Which subtype? Helper T cells. Which subtype of helper T cells? TH2. Remember, TH2 for type 1 hypersensitivity, IgE antibody. For TH1 delayed type hypersensitivity, not much of role by antibodies, right. Antigen presenting cells are now, your answer will be except. So, other than the T lymphocytes, all the rest can be your antigen presenting cells. Toll-like receptors, stimulate immune response by. Now, what do you mean by these toll-like receptors? What role they play? It is at the first level. We have seen the first cells to attack the antigen will be antigen presenting cells. For that, they have to sense the antigens. Through which they sense? It is through the presence of toll-like receptors. Lot of function played by these toll-like receptors. They are basically membrane proteins. They sense the microbes and other antigens and stimulate the innate immunity. So, they are expressed in the cells of immune system. So, wherever you have expression of MHC2, there you can see expression of toll-like receptors. So, that is next. So, this is what. So, any bacterium having its own specific ligands. So, this will be sensed by toll-like receptor presenting on the antigen presenting cell. So, that will sense, and this next again the same thing, bacterium, the lipopolysaccharide cover, this will be sensed with a toll-like receptor and the signals will be delivered to the nucleus for the various step of events to happen. So, they predominantly act through NFK beta pathway. What happens with this pathway activation? So, that will result in generation of inflammatory cytokines. So, that is why APCs are able to activate T lymphocytes. They not just process and present. Apart from this, they do one another important role. They will activate the masters. So, how they are able to do? Through toll-like receptors which act through NFK beta pathway, by which it is able to generate inflammatory cytokines, not just inflammatory cytokines, adhesion molecules, proteins involved in phagocytosis killing and everything. So, they will produce most of the proteins involved in the immune response. So, that is why they are able to effectively activate T lymphocytes. So, genes that are expressed, so inflammatory cytokines include, the pro-inflammatory cytokines, the most powerful pro-inflammatory cytokines, IL-1, IL-6, IL-2, 12, interferon, TNF alpha. So, these will be produced. Apart from this, you can also have expression of endothelial adhesion molecules and proteins involved in microbial killing. Good, Aksha has come up with the appropriate answer, NFKB AP1 pathway. Yeah, then toll-like receptors stimulate immune response by which pathway? Yeah. Which of the following is true about super antigens? We will see. So far we have seen what all happens with the conventional antigen, which cells take up, by which they sense, what they do while processing the antigen, they will present it to whom, how many signals they want, everything with respect to conventional antigens. There is something called as so-called dominant super antigens. They do not follow the usual rules followed by conventional antigens. We will see. So, they are potent activators of T lymphocytes and they stimulate large number of T lymphocytes at a stretch. Conventional antigens have epitope specificity, but so these super antigens, they do not have any epitope specificity, and TCR antigen specificity is also not required. Most importantly, there is excessive and dysregulated immune response. The minute you hear of this super antigens, the example that comes to your mind will be SSSS. When I do not get any answer from the online students, yes, they have come up. Staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome. That is a prototypical example of super antigens. There is exaggerated immune response. There is excessive release of cytokines, amplified immune response you get to see in super antigens. The most important difference is being, so this is a conventional T cell with a T cell receptor. Next slide. So, this is a T cell taking up the antigen from the antigen presenting cell through MHC. So, where the antigen is presented? In the groove between the T cell receptor and the MHC. That is why it has been made specifically like this, with the groove, and both the cells will be a groove, the antigen will be presented through that groove. But what happens with super antigen is, no antigen presenting cells required, they just come and directly attacks the lateral aspect of the T cell receptor. They do not need any processing and presentation, they can directly activate T cell receptors, they can directly activate T lymphocytes. So, conventional antigens, they can activate in less than 1 in 10,000 lymphocytes, whereas the super antigens can activate up to 20% of peripheral T lymphocytes. So, the answer is bind T cells irrespective of antigen. So, see, option 3 and 5 are true statements, that is option 1, 2, 4 are true statements. Option 3 and 5 are wrong. In the sense, they bind T cells irrespective of, they do not have any antigen specificity, they do not have any epitope specificity, right, and they directly bind to both MHC and T cell receptor on the lateral aspect. And so, they do not bind to the cleft and they are capable of activating up to 20% of peripheral T lymphocytes, but not B lymphocytes. All of the following statements about NK cells are true except we will go to the explanation. So, NK cells belong to a family of cells called as null cells or large granular cells. Why are they called null cells? They basically lymphocytes, but unlike T or B lymphocytes, unlike T lymphocytes, they are basically T lymphocytes, but they do not have expression of CD4 or CD8, no expression of CD, that is why they are called as null cells. So, they are larger than the conventional lymphocytes, they have granules unlike the conventional lymphocytes, that is why they are called as large granular lymphocytes. So, they constitute 5 to 10% of peripheral T lymphocytes, peripheral lymphocytes, they contain eosinophilic granules. Where do you have this eosinophilic granules? Which cells will have eosinophilic granules? Granulocytes, especially neutrophils. So, expression of they express two molecules on the surface. Conventional T lymphocytes express either CD4 or CD8. These do not have expression of CD4, CD8, rather they will express CD16 and CD56. What is the CD16 is? It is a receptor for the Fc portion of IgG. IgG has FAB and Fc portion. So, these will be expressing receptors for the Fc portion of the IgG. It has got a purpose for this, we will come to it later. So, the most important growth factor for this entire family is IL-2. Now, you tell me where this IL-2 has got a role? TH1, very good. So, TH1 function is to mediate granuloma formation, activate NK cells, activate cytotoxic T cells to cause cytotoxicity. So, it does it through IL-2, right, TH1 ka IL-2 this is. So, the members of this family include antigen antibody dependent cytotoxic cells, natural killer cells and lymphokine activated killer cells. So, what do we mean by this antibody dependent cytotoxic cells? These cells have the capacity to cause damage to a cell, but they can do only when a cell is coated with antibody. Coated with antibody, that antibody is sensed to attach through Fc portion of the receptor for the Fc portion of the antibody, that is CD16. So, antibody dependent cytotoxic cells through their CD16 expression, they cause antibody dependent toxicity. So, their cytotoxicity is purely dependent on antibody coating, right. Second is the NK cells. So, this here the cytotoxicity is purely antibody dependent for this particular subgroup, but not MHC, unlike T lymphocytes. See, they are not dependent on MHC for their function. So, this is the structure of the antibody. You can see this is the Fc portion. So, this Fc portion receptors will be carried by NK cells. Second group is natural killer cells. So, their action is neither antibody dependent nor MHC dependent. They have their own mechanism of identifying a cell as foreign, mounting an immune response, right. We will come to the mechanism in the next question. So, their growth factor for NK cell will be IL-2, growth factor for ADCC IL-2, and the same NK cells when they are treated with surplus amount of IL-2, the result will be lymphokine activated killer cells, see, with more efficiency, that is it. The same group with more amount of IL-2, more efficiency. So, they are capable of secreting, go back. The cytotoxicity mainly is due to perforin and granzyme, very good. So, with these two molecules they exert cytotoxicity. That is NK cell, the growth factor is IL-2. So, this NK cell is the cytotoxicity is due to NK cell cytotoxicity is due to its own enzymes, its own molecules, not antibody mediated, not MHC restricted, right. So, it just comes into surface contact, releases its granules inside the target tissue and kills it. It does not need a function of antibodies. I would like to see this. Connect panninga. Poitara. So, okay, varatum. You can just go. Now, coming back to the question, are they derived from large granular cells? Are they derived from large granular cells? Yes. They comprise about 5% of human peripheral lymphoid cells? Yes, 5 to 10%. They are MHC restricted cytotoxic? No. They express IgG Fc receptor? Yes, that is called as CD16. They are antibody dependent? NK, we are talking about NK cells. Only ADCC, a member of the family, is dependent, but NK cells as such is not dependent. Good. NK cells attack which of the following cells? Now coming to the, you have now got to know NK cells are not dependent on antibody, not dependent on MHC. So these mechanism will separate the antibody expression or MHC expression, will just mark a cell as foreign or to be targeted, right. But NK cells are not dependent on antibody, they are not dependent on MHC. Then how will they recognize that these cells are self and these cells are foreign? If you know that answer, you can answer this explanation. Wait. So why NK cells don't kill normal cells? See, what do every nucleated cell express? So this purpose of this is virus will infect only the nucleated cells. So all the nucleated cells, native nucleated cells are protected by expression of MHC1. When they get infected, this MHC1 expression will be lost. That is why they will be taken care of by the immune system, right. So every normal cell, expresses MHC1. So NK cell will get activated when there is loss of MHC1 expression by the cell or when there is excess of activating signals. Got it? So here when NK cell comes into contact with a normal cell that expresses MHC1, MHC1 is actually, apart from its other function, it also protects the cell from the destruction by NK cell, or else NK cell will just attack normal cells also, right. So a normal cell, it expresses MHC1 and just switches off the NK cell, right. So when a cell gets attacked by NK cell is, when a cell gets transformed to malignancy, a cancer cell, that is when it loses its MHC1 expression. It is after an altered cell, it loses its MHC1 expression. So at that point, this NK cell will be uninhibited, so that will get activated. That is why it is able to mount an immune response against tumor. It has got anti-tumor immunity. Is that clear? Yes. Or else, even when a cancer cell by aberrant expression, even when it expresses MHC1, there can be more amount of activating signals, more than the usual amount of activating signals. With that, it gets activated and is able to mount an immune response. So an NK cell gets activated when there is loss of expression of MHC1 or when there is more activating signals, there is over expression of activating signals. In these two settings, an NK cell gets activated and will mount an immune response against the target cell. Now the answer will be I am sorry. Now your answer will be, I would like to see the online students answer. Now I am sorry I did not follow your answers. So cells which are not able to MHC1, very good. Cells that can induce activating cells, very good. I thought you will come up with option 2 and you will forget, you will ignore option 5. Good that you have come up with the correct answer. Yes. HLA typing is useful in, good. Good. So HLA, not all of the above. You need to go through the options carefully. So uses disputed paternity. For testing more than disputed paternity, the most common practical application will be to test organ compatibility and for anthropological studies. So how it is done? So this is patient stem cells, this heterogeneous stem cell, that is a donor just getting tested. So this you can see, okay. Here only one loci matches, the other loci is different. So in all the 3 loci, nothing matches perfectly with the patient cells. So in this case, there is high chances of rejection by the donor. So this particular donor cannot be, rejection by the recipient. So this particular donor will not be accepted. Next, this case you can see. So this is common, you can have the you can see the similarity. So in this particular loci there is not much, no difference. Here again this will be accepted by this loci, and here you can see the similarity. So, in this particular compatibility testing, if the donor's organ is transplanted, the chances of rejection is less. That is what we do in HLA typing. And when it comes to disputed paternity, this is the HLA haplotype of the father, haplotype of the mother. Can I have it here? Oh, it is not getting connected. Okay. Can I pull it even? Okay. Okay. This is for the mother. So, only these many combinations, we can expect a child to have. When a child is having anything apart from this, then the child is not actually a biological child of this couple, right. So, this is the expected combinations to occur. When there is any deviation, then the child is not a biological child of the couple. So, HLA typing is useful in organ transplant and disputed paternity. Good. Which of the following surface glycoproteins is not expressed in T cells? So, this CD markers, cluster of differentiation, will be present on the surface of the lymphocytes, all leukocytes. The importance of them is they will mark their lineage. With expression of certain markers, we will confirm that this particular group of this particular cell belong to this particular lineage. And also they will reflect the stage of differentiation, early marker, mature marker, and all. We have lot of such markers. So, this is how it will be. Like for example, stem cell with CD34 marker, as a cell matures, it will lose its stem cell marker and will have the other markers. You can see CD45 in every cell that is being shown over here. It is a common leukocyte antigen. You get to see its expression every WBC. And then for example, here it is a T lymphocyte. It can be either 4 or 8, but you can see CD3 as a common marker. So, CD3 is also called as pan T lymphocyte marker. You get to see its expression every T lymphocyte. If it does not express T lymphocyte CD3, it is not a T lymphocyte, it is like that. And CD25 is a marker for CD25 regulatory T cells. The growth factor for regulatory T cells IL-25. Some of the commonly asked CD markers: primary T cell 1, 3, 5, 4 or 8, never 4 and 8. Primary B cell CD10, 19. What is 10 called as CD10? Which lymphomas express Kala? It is my best friend. M for mantle, B for Burkitt's, F for follicular lymphoma, Kala positive, right. And primary B cell CD10, 19, 20, 21, 20, 23, 79A. We use CD19 and 79A commonly as pan B lymphocyte markers. Monocyte 11C, 13, 14, 15. NK cell CD16 and 56. Stem cell 34, activation marker CD30, all leukocyte CD45. These are the commonly asked CD markers. So, which of the following surface markers not expressed in T cells? CD10 is a B lymphocyte marker and CD34 is a stem cell marker. So, it will not be expressed when the cell matures. Good. All are B cell markers except all are B cell markers except 19 you're sure, 21 you're sure, 23 you're sure, 45 you're sure. What about CD15? Where do you yes, Hodgkin lymphoma will express CD15. It is not a B cell it is not a normal B cell marker. So, which of the following is a pan T lymphocyte marker? CD3. Good. So, this how, for example, this is how we will come to a conclusion. A cell expressing CD5, CD19 B cell, and the one of the very few lymphomas that has expression of both CD5 and CD23 is your CLL. When a lymphoma has expression of only CD5 and not CD23, it is good. What else will be expressed in mantle cell lymphoma? Too good. For example, it's a lymphocyte. Next. With the CD19 expression, you will come to a conclusion it is B cell. This CD25, CD103, no. CD25, okay, regulatory. But in this case, CD25 and 103. It is hairy cell leukemia. That's how immunophenotyping will help us to arrive at a diagnosis. 19, B or T? B cell. 20, B cell. 5, 79A. 79 is a B cell. 5 expression you get in 5 without CD23, mantle cell lymphoma. That's how we will come to a conclusion in immunophenotyping, right. Memory T cells can be identified by using the following markers. Now we are done with like a T lymphocyte, B lymphocyte, other cells. Memory T cells, a very important subset of memory T cells, helper T cells. So they should have their own identity. We will identify them with CD45RO, memory RO, right. Like this it will be. So naive T cell, naive in the sense which has not come into contact with any antigen. That is a naive cell that will express RA-RB. When it is naive, the RB expression is high. As it becomes a memory T cell, so you can make it, the RO expression is high with RB being low. You just need to remember memory T cell marker is CD45RO. Right. The memory T cells can be identified by using CD45RO. Interleukin produced by macrophages stimulating lymphocytes. So, we have seen macrophages, a prototypical example of antigen presenting cells, will process and present antigens and also activate T lymphocytes. This activation is done via Toll-like receptors which acts through NFK beta pathway, generate inflammatory cytokines. Which cytokine of this pathway will activate T lymphocytes? One for the master, IL-1 produced by macrophages to activate T lymphocytes. Is that clear? See, antigen presenting cells, in addition to processing and presenting antigens to the T lymphocytes, will also activate T lymphocytes. How they do? Through Toll-like receptor, NFK beta pathway cytokines. Which particular cytokine will activate T lymphocyte? It is IL-1. The first cytokine produced by the first cell of the immune system. The first cell to take the role is APCs. So, they will produce IL-1. That is why it is also called as leukocyte activating factor, produced by again the cells of immune system, most importantly by monocyte macrophage family. Okay, Sarah, thank you. By monocytes, macrophages, epithelial cells, also from the other cells of immune system. And this is what happens. LPS sensed by Toll-like receptors. Where do you have expression of Toll-like receptors? On the surface of APCs. Good. So, APCs, this Toll-like receptor acts through NFK beta pathway, and this is by, thank you Akshara for your compliment, this is by IL-1 beta, and this produces IL-1 beta, and you can see this acts on the T cells, causing activation. So, this IL-1 by causing activation of T lymphocytes, they can mediate almost every step in inflammation. So, you can just remember that way, you do not need to memorize in every step in that. So, what happens here is this IL-1, they just go and activate, they causing, see, they can activate macrophage, they can activate TH1, T helper T cells, they can activate B lymphocytes, they can activate NK cells, they can activate PM1. So, every activity of immune system is through T helper T cells. Helper T cells act through activated by helper T cells activated by IL-1 produced by APCs. APCs produce IL-1 by Toll-like receptor NFK beta pathway, right. And when this helper T cells are induced, activated by this IL-1, what do? How they act further? By producing IL-2. The second set of cells involved in immune responses, helper T cells, lymphocytes, helper T cells. First set of cells will be macrophages, antigen presenting cells. So, they will produce IL-1, and this T lymphocytes will produce IL-2 in response to their activation by IL-1. So, we have lot of cytokines. We may not be able to memorize everything, but these two are master cytokines. We have to remember the source and their actions. So, interleukin produced by macrophages stimulating lymphocytes will be IL-1. Next, IL-2 secreted by CD4. So, IL-1 by macrophages or antigen presenting cells, IL-2 by CD4 lymphocytes. So, IL-2 basic function is to promote and maintain Th1 differentiation. So, it has to maintain its population. So, IL-2 will skew the differentiation towards Th1. It will maintain the population of Th1 subsets. That is why you can go back and recollect Th1 response, cytokines involved, IL-2, 12, interferon gamma. So, the most important cytokine to maintain the Th1 population would be IL-2, right. You have 3. For the monocyte epithelioid cell transformation, it is interferon gamma. For the to sustain the Th1 differentiation, it is IL-2. So, this is what happens in short in a granuloma formation. Antigen presenting cell taking up the antigen via toll-like receptor. Toll-like receptor is delivering signals through NFK beta pathway, producing cytokines, activate importantly IL-1, activating the T lymphocytes. This T lymphocytes activated by this antigen presenting cells will produce IL-12. Here it is only shown as IL-12, mainly IL-1, which is missing in the picture, and this IL-2 is produced by T lymphocytes apart from interferon gamma, TNF. So, this IL-2 will help in maintaining this population, whereas interferon gamma will take care of the granuloma formation. Yes, very good, excellent. So, this IL-2 secretion, again when you compare the functions of IL-1 and IL-2 will be the same. IL-1 causes T cell activation and T cell will be activated to produce IL-2, which will have all these effects. So, basically both will have monocyte macrophage activation, NK cell activity, activation of NK cells, activation of cytotoxic cells, activation of B cells. So, T cell, that is why T cell response is mainly due to IL-1 and IL-2. Yes. IL-2 secreted by, so it is very clear for you, right? Good. Identify the wrong statement. No explanation, you have to come up with the correct answer. I am looking forward for the answers by the online students too. IL-1 produced by macrophages, tell me whether it is correct or wrong. Correct. IL-2 produced by heterotoxic T lymphocytes, no, it is produced by helper T cells. IL-1 activates T lymphocytes, yes. IL-1 induces production of IL-2, yes. IL-2 stimulates Th2 differentiation, IL-2 Th1 differentiation, Th1 for type 4 hypersensitivity, right. Good, very good. Now, coming to hypersensitivity reaction. Okay. Maybe at this point you may find it difficult. We will go to the explanation, come back to the question later. Online students, it's going to take more than half an hour. Is that okay for you all? Okay. So, hypersensitivity reaction is classified by Jelen-Coombs into 4 types. Type 1, atopy, allergy. Type 2, antibody mediated. Type 3, immune complex mediated. Type 4, delayed type. So, type 1 hypersensitive reaction, we have lot of criteria. See the each and everything should have its own features. The antigen should be the antigen for which the host is mounting an immune response. Thank you. The antigen for which the host is responding should be polyvalent. the sense it should have more than one arms to bind, not just one. With just one arm, it's not going to provoke a type 1 hypersensitivity reaction. It should have more than one arm. That's the important quality of the antigen, right? And then the quality of the person, what should mean? How is he predetermined? He should be genetically predisposed. So, same antigen is being group of persons getting exposed to the same antigen, not everyone is going to develop symptoms, even if it is going to be a polyvalent antigen. So, genetically predetermined individual getting exposed to a polyvalent antigen and there will be no response at first exposure. The patient will present with symptoms only in the subsequent exposures. Right? We will see what happens with every exposure. And a rapidly developing immunological reaction due to combination of antigen bound with antibody. Where should this antibody be? The antigen is combining the antibody present on mast cells. This is called as sensitization of mast cells or just sensitization. Sensitization meaning coating of mast cells with antibodies, right. So, this is called as, this happens with first exposure. With first exposure, the antigen enters the body, induces antibody production and the antibodies goes and just coats the mast cells. So, this is priming. During priming, sensitization happens. This is, with this there is no symptom by the patient. And this is basically IgE mediated with T and B cells. The antigen can enter the body through inhalation or ingestion and it undergoes two phases, initial and the shocking dose. That is what we have seen. The first exposure, what happens is priming, sensitization. All the symptoms will happen preceded only with subsequent exposure. This is what happens. First an antigen enters, taken care of this, all these processes I am sure you all are thorough, right. What happens when a conventional antigen enters? Which antigen binds directly to the lateral aspects of T cell receptor and MHC? Super antigen, good, super. So, there is antigen presenting cell taking care of antigens and giving it to Th2 cell. You can revise now, recollect the cytokines of IL-2 response. Cytokines of IL-2 response. Come on, I expect a rapid fire answer for this. Th2 response. Very good. 4, 5, 6, 10, 13. Very good. So, these cytokines are associated with Th, superb, Th2 response. So, you can see them here. IL-4 and 5, 4 and 13 will induce B cell for IgE production. So, these IgE will just go and coat on the mast cells. With this, there is no symptoms. We can make it over here. Again, the antigen is entering, and the patient is getting exposed to the antigen for the next time. That time, what happens is, I am sorry, here the polyvalency is not shown over here, but that should be there. This polyvalent antigen actually here one another mistake with this picture is mast cell will be coated by more than one antibodies. Okay. So, polyvalent antigen on one hand will bind to one FAB portion of an antibody, on the other hand will bind to other FAB portion of the other antibody, adjacent antibody. With this, what happens is cross linking. With this cross linking, what will be the result? Mast cell activation. What will be the result of mast cell activation? Release of mediators. Which mediators will be released instantly? Preformed mediators, cell derived mediators. What are they? Vasoactive amines. What are they? Histamine and serotonin. What will be the effects of this release of vasoactive amines? Khatija and Sara, it is not just histamine, it is also serotonin. So, what is their effect? Bronchoconstriction, vasodilatation, mucus secretion. So, all these vascular events are taken care of by this immediately released vasoactive amines, and soon they can't sustain the response for such a long time. So, soon this will be taken care of by cell mediated mediators, cell derived mediators. What are they? Arachidonic acid metabolites. It goes back to inflammation chapter. You have to just recollect this. So, then they will take care of the events. Eosinophils will contribute maximum to the cell damage by way of major basic protein. Of course, proteins will also be product of eosinophils, very importantly through major basic protein. So, that will cause tissue damage. That is why eosinophilia will result in tissue damage. So, mucosal ulceration, destruction will happen with I am sorry, chronic inflammation. Yeah, no, yeah. So, you can see. So, release of mediators will result in smooth muscle spasm, vasodilatation and increased mucous secretion. So, late phase you can see it will be taken care of by eosinophils mainly. So, again the same thing, you can see pollen entering it, you can make, of course it is too tiny, but here it is shown correctly. It is a bivalent antigen, you can see it has got two arms, right. So, first with the first exposure Th2 cell differentiation, IL-3, 5, IL-4 and of course 13 for IgE production, they will take care of this. These antibodies will just go and coat the mast cells priming, and then IL-3, 5 GM-CSF will induce eosinophils, mean recruit eosinophils, and this will release granules and take care of the mucosal damage. And you can see with the subsequent exposure, cross linking of the antibodies, you can see it is very clear over here, and this cross linking will cause activation of mast cells, release of granules and all the symptoms. The initial phase, the bronchospasm, is mainly due to this vasoactive amines. So, two forms, systemic and local. Local you call it as atopy. The most important cells of type 1 hypersensitivity, mast cells. They have to release the mediators. So, most important cells in late phase, eosinophils. Most important mediator is histamine. Most important cytokine, other cytokines 5, 6, 13, 10, sorry. Most important cytokine late phase will be platelet activating factor. Most potent eosinophilic activating cytokine would be IL-5. That is why you have set of these cytokines in Th2 response. Which response for which subset of helper T cells for granuloma formation? Even in your sleep you should be able to come out to this answer. Good. Yeah. Now you have to answer this. Identify the correct state. Most important cytokine of type 1 hypersensitivity, IL-2, IL-2 for no, கொஞ்சம் பார்த்துக்கோங்க, இதை பார்த்துக்கோங்க, இதை பார்த்துட்டு அது பார்த்துக்கோங்க, சரியா. Most important cytokine of type 1 hypersensitivity, IL-2, no, IL-2, 12 interferon gamma for Th1, type 4 hypersensitivity. Exposure to monovalent antigen sensitized individuals in polyvalent, good. Most potent eosinophil activate IL-5, yes. Smooth muscle spasm, vasospasm, mucous secretion symptoms? No. These are the mechanisms for the symptom development? Yeah, it is vasodilatation. Genetic predisposition, the most important factor? Yes. Whatever be the nature of the antigen, whatever be the time of exposure, frequency of exposure, it happens only in genetically predisposed individuals, not in everyone. Yes, all combinations are true except, I know at this stage it may be difficult for you, then come to the explanation. See, we are clear about type 1 hypersensitivity. Now coming to type 2 and type 3, both are actually antibody mediated. What is the difference? What is the difference? The location of the antigen. When the antibody attacks antigen on the surface of a cell, that will result in type 2. When the antigen antibody complex happens in the circulation, that goes and gets deposited elsewhere, that will result in type 3. So, be very clear about it. Where is the location of the antigen? Where the antibody combines with the antigen? On the surface of a cell or in the circulation. In type 2 hypersensitive reaction, antibody directly combines with the antigen present on the surface. For example, AIHA, autoimmune hemolytic anemia, where the antibodies are directed against the antigens on the surface of the red cell. So, they just go directly attacks the antigens on the red cells go for lysis. This is type 2. SLE, immune complex formation in the circulation. that complex goes and deposited in its favor sites, that is type 3. So, both are antibody mediated, but where the antibody attack the antigens is going to bring out the difference. So, you can make it over here, antibody attacking the, of course with complement, both will happen only with help of complement especially when it is going to happen through IgM, which is the best complement fixing antibody. More than IgG, IgM was a best complement fixing antibody. See here the antibodies are directed against antigens on the surface, that will cause lysis of red cells. Type 3 immune antigen antibody complement, complex is formed in the circulation, that goes and attacks the organs varying cells I am sorry that will result in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Good. So, type 4, that is a different mechanism. You have seen what happens with granuloma development. So, type 2 hypersensitivity reaction, again a revision, antigen coating the surface of RBCs, antibodies bind to RBCs causing cell destruction. Type 3 immune complex formation in circulation getting deposited wherever they want to. So, all your allergic reactions type 1, all your organ specific autoimmune disorders type 2. For example, Hashimoto's, your myasthenia gravis, here again the autoantibody formation, good pastures, autoantibody, but they are directly going and attacking the antigen at their levels. So, all your organ specific autoantibody autoimmune disorders are going to be type 2. All your systemic autoimmune disorders are going to be type, that is complex formation in the circulation, they can go and get deposited where multiple sites they want to. So, that is going to result in systemic autoimmune disorders. So, that is the basic difference between type 2 and type 3. Apart from, you can see from the examples over here, the transmission reaction, IHA, pemphigus vulgaris, good pastures, pernicious anemia or acute rheumatic fever, diabetes, type 1, Graves, myasthenia, all these organ specific autoimmune disorders. Type 3, you can see the systemic disorders. Apart from this, a Schick test, Arthur's reaction, systemic, very frequently asked about this Arthur's and serum sickness. Arthur's reaction, serum sickness, and hyperacute graft rejection is type 3, whereas graft rejection is type 4. When there is hyperacute rejection is due to exclusively due to antibodies, preformed antibodies, antigen antibody complex formation circulation getting deposited, that is type 3. As graft rejection is mostly cell mediated, that is type 4. And then among lepra reaction, type 2 lepra reaction is type 3 and type 1 lepra reaction is type 1, and erythema nodosum leprosum is type 2 lepra reaction. So, now erythema nodosum leprosum type 3 hypersensitivity true, yes. Post streptococcal glomerulonephritis type 3 PSGN, Schick test delayed hypersensitivity type 3, mismatched blood transfusion type 2, yes. Lepromine test, tuberculin test, everything will come under type 4 hypersensitivity reaction. So, all the rest are true. Post streptococcal glomerulonephritis is immune complex mediated disease where the complex forms in the circulation going and getting deposited in the kidneys. So, that is type 3. Type 4 hypersensitivity is Crohn's, granuloma, type 4, silicosis, sarcoidosis granulomatous, silicosis, nodular fibrosing disease, nothing to do with hypersensitivity, right. Myasthenia gravis, good, type 2, it is organ specific. Coombs positive hemolytic anemia, type 2, good. So, farmer's lung, all this hypersensitivity pneumonitis, your farmer's lung, pigeon breeder's lung, humidifier's lung, all thermophilic bacteria, everything is due to mainly type 4 hypersensitivity, at times can also be due to type 3. I am sorry, farmer's lung, everything is due to type 3. Here among the options, Crohn's disease is type 4. Delayed type hypersensitivity is seen in the following except Arthur's phenomenon, which good, contact dermatitis, contact dermatitis, typho, hypersensitivity, granuloma formation, cytotoxicity, and contact dermatitis. All these are prototypical examples of type 4 hypersensitivity. Tuberculin test, typho. GVHD, typho. Whereas hyperacute graft rejection is type 3. Rash in SLE, everywhere it is due to type 3. Xenograft is between. You see. So, when a graft is self graft, it is auto. When it is grafted to genetically identical sibling or identical individual, it is isograft. When it is grafted to genetically different member of same species between humans, it is allograft, which is the most commonly used one. Xenograft between different species. So, graft applied in anatomically normal sites, orthotopic, different sites, heterotopic. So, xenograft is between members of different species. Identify the wrong statement, we will go to the explanation, then come back to the question. So, transplant rejection. Okay, so why a graft is rejected? How a graft is rejected? The mechanism will involve both the humoral immunity and both the humoral immunity and cell mediated immunity. So, with respect to cell mediated immunity, it follows two pathways. It can be direct or indirect. What makes the difference is to whom the APCs belong, whether the antigen processing cells are from the graft or from the recipient, because tissue is being grafted. Those that graft tissue will also be containing APCs. So, whether the antigen presenting cells are from the donor or from the recipient, that is going to determine the pathway in cell mediated immunity. So, direct pathway, the APCs are from the donor, direct donor. So, the APCs of the graft, APCs of the donor will be presenting the antigens. So, it undergoes two pathways, dual pathways, direct donor derived APCs, dual pathway. So, by which it can activate, it can act through both CD8 and CD4 lymphocytes, right. So, direct pathway, APCs of the donor, dual, CD8 or CD4 can get activated. Indirect pathway, it is APCs of the host. Just remember one thing, direct pathway, donor ka APCs, indirect pathway is the opposite. So, when the APCs are from the host, it can activate only one pathway, that is CD4, meaning CD4 is involved in both. CD4 always associated with 2, CD4 for CD4 can take up antigens only when presented with MHC 2. CD4 CD8 ratio is 2:1. Like this, CD4 will be involved in both the pathways, direct or indirect, like that. Go back. This is what happens. In direct presentation, you can see the difference. Host derived, donors APC presenting antigen to the host cell. Indirect pathway, host derived APC presenting antigen to the host. That brings out the difference. Next. So, direct pathway is a mechanism for acute rejection, whereas indirect pathway for chronic rejection. So, in short, direct pathway cellular rejection, donor APC, dual pathway activating CD4 and CD8 lymphocytes, acute rejection, right. The opposite with indirect. Indirect pathway, host ka APCs, it's only CD8, chronic rejection, right. So, now you have to tell me the answer. Direct pathway of rejection, APC of the donor, direct, donor, correct. Indirect pathway of rejection, APC of the recipient, yes. Direct pathway of rejection, CD4, yeah, CD4 is involved, good. Indirect pathway of rejection, CD8, Indirect pathway of rejection CD8? Wrong. So, direct pathway CD4, CD8, indirect pathway CD4. CD4 is common for both the pathways, right. Direct pathway of rejection, chronic rejection? No. So, direct pathway, donor APC, dual pathway, acute rejection. Just remember these facts. Is that clear for the online students? Yeah. Histology of acute rejection of renal transplant. Yes, thank you. So, types of rejection can be hyperacute, acute or chronic. Hyperacute always due to antibodies. Acute antibody cells. Chronic always due to cell mediated. So, hyperacute antibodies, chronic cell mediated, acute antibody, chronic cell mediated. Sorry, hyperacute antibody, chronic cell mediated, whereas acute can be both humoral and cellular cell mediated. So, hyperacute is due to preformed antibodies, right. So, this will happen even before closing the completing the surgery, the organ will be rejected. On table rejection can happen due to preformed antibodies in the recipient. So, this will happen in a few minutes to hours. Acute 5 days to 3 months due to both humoral and cell mediated immunity, whereas chronic months to years due to cell mediated immunity. Hyperacute, preformed antibodies, activate complement system. Which type of reaction? Type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Anita, the answer is no, only today pathology class. So the target is vasculature. For hyperacute, the target is basically vasculature. So, it goes and attacks, there is a certain necrosis of the target vessels, neutrophils in the vessels, and thrombosis of the blood vessels, resulting in ischemic death of the organ. So, in the hyperacute, the basic target will be the graft vasculature. Acute, the antibodies are formed after transplantation. Again, the target will be graft vasculature. This is about hyperacute, where the antigen antibody complex is formed and coming and getting deposited on the surface of the cells, graft, and here it is acute, which may be due to antibodies and cells. So, hyperacute rejection, as the target is blood vessels, you can see the changes at the level of vessels, and the hallmark feature would be the presence of C4b in peritubular capillaries. That is the hallmark finding of acute humoral rejection. So, this should be there confirmed by immunofluorescence. Acute cellular rejection, acute can be cell mediated or humoral. Now, we are seeing about acute cell mediated rejection. So, basically says, so you will get to see mononuclear inflammatory infiltrate. Again the target will be vessels, endothelitis, focal tubular necrosis. When there is tubular necrosis, which cast you get in urine? Epithelial cast. Epithelial cast can undergo changes like fine, coarse granular. Coarse granular cast you get in parenchymal damage. Waxy cast you get in nephron obstruction, when there is lot of time for the cast to stay in the tubules. Broad cast you get to see in where the tubules are dilated. Very good. Chronic rejection, so become chronic cellular. So, will be everywhere fibrosis, atrophy. So, mononuclear inflammatory infiltrate in the interstitium, tubular atrophy, interstitial fibrosis. This change you get to see in every graft rejected by chronic cell mediated immunity. Here the hallmark feature is duplication of basement membrane of glomeruli. What is on top of basement membrane? Structure of glomerular capillary wall. Basement membrane, on top of basement membrane, endothelial cells. Beneath the basement membrane, basal epithelial cells. Good. So, duplication of, good, not parietal cells Khatija, on top of basement membrane it is endothelial cells. So, duplication base membrane of glomeruli is a hallmark feature of chronic transplant glomerulopathy. Hallmark feature of acute humoral transplant rejection would be presence of C4b along the peritubular capillaries. Too good. Now, histology of acute rejection of renal transplant is neutrophilic infiltration good, necrotizing vasculitis good. Why can't it be IgG in complement? Read the question clearly. It is about histology. IgG in complement you can see in immunofluorescence. So, for histology it is going to be only option 4 and 5. True statement about GVHD. Let us see. So far we have seen how a host reject a graft. That is what is conventional graft rejection. So, you can see host rejecting the graft, targeting the graft, graft is rejected. But GVHD happens when the graft rejects the host. When can this happen? When the patient is not able to, when the host is not able to mount an immune response, in the sense he or she is in the immunocompromised state. When the graft contains immunocompetent, these two must be there. When the graft contains immunocompetent cells and when the host is not able to mount an immunoresponse, meaning he or she is in an immunocompromised state. And most importantly, in this particular setting, to call a reaction as graft versus host disease, host should not reject a graft. When such a thing happens, you are going to call it as GVHD. So, host is immunocompromised, graft contains immunocompetent cells. That is when you are going to call it as GVHD. So, this commonly happens in when do you suppress the immune system of the host to the maximum extent, in which transplantation? Bone marrow. So, bone marrow transplantation, this is going to happen commonly. In such patients, when you want to of course, such patients need blood support because the bone marrow not in a state to compensate. Such patients, when you are going to give blood support, what process should they undergo? Blood products, gamma irradiation of the blood bag should be done to inactivate the lymphocytes. Why lymphocytes? Because when you are going to transfuse such patient, those lymphocytes are going to mount an immune response against the host, right. So, this commonly happens in bone marrow transplantation, and when such patients are transfused blood without undergoing gamma irradiation, and especially when this happens when the host's immune system is lowered by chemotherapy, radiotherapy. So, it is going to be precipitated by chemoradiotherapy, prevented by gamma irradiation of the blood bag. And this actually follows, other than bone marrow, this can also happen with organ transplantation rich in lymphoid cells like a spleen. In that case, the graft is going to have rich amount of lymphoid cells which are going to definitely mount an immune response. So, now true statement, recipient immunocompromised. Oh, thank you. Recipient immunocompromised? Yes. Graft contain immunocompetent cells? Good. Associated with bone marrow transplantation? Yes. Aggravated by gamma irradiation blood products? No. Prevented by chemotherapy? No. All are affected in GVHD. Now, we know what is the mechanism, who will be affected. Which organs are the targets for this GVHD? 3 organs. Importantly, they have such favor: skin, liver, GIT. Again, same thing. So, skin is most commonly, again this GVHD can take acute or chronic form. Acute form, everywhere necrosis. Chronic form, everywhere fibrosis, atrophy. Skin, lysis, epidermolysis bullosa, skin denudation, perivascular infiltrate and others, right. Gut, there is mucosal ulceration resulting in intractable diarrhea. And liver cholestatic picture, necrosis, inflammation, and chronic extensive destruction, fibrosis, gut necrosis, fibrosis, stricture formation, liver, and liver biopsy is important not to diagnose GVHD, but to rule out the coexisting infection, okay, because treatment is going to be different. So, all are affected in GVHD except esophagus being a part of GIT, it may be affected, though not commonly, may be affected, but lung is not a common target for GVHD. Autoimmunity mechanism includes all of the following except, go to the explanation. So, it is a immune be it immune response or autoimmune disorders, perfect interplay of 3 factors: your genetic predisposition genes, environments, and your immune regulation. Actually, it's already 8:15. Can we continue? Online students, just give me the answer. Yeah, is it okay for you? Yes. Only you have to continue. It will take. It's going to take at least another half an hour. Is it okay for you? Okay. Yeah. So for you to understand the mechanism of autoimmunity, you need to know what happens with normal immune response. How our cells of immune system recognizes self antigens as self and foreign antigens as foreign. You know now how foreign antigens are identified, but how self antigens are protected, cells are protected, it is by mechanism called as tolerance. That happens at 2 levels, one is central, second is peripheral. Central happens at the level of thymus, peripheral in the peripheral circulation. From where you get the B lymphocytes? Where you get the T lymphocytes? Bone marrow. They are named according to their site of maturation, not according to the site of production. For every cell, all the hematopoietic cells, the cradle is bone marrow, the graveyard is spleen. So, it is only according to the site of maturation they are named. Yes, Anita, perfect. Yes ma'am, yes ma'am, yes ma'am, only one has asked me to continue tomorrow. I can't come tomorrow, just 30 minutes. Yeah. So, central selection where yeah, central selection happens at the level of thymus, where this happens during our development as a fetus, right. So, that time what happens is all these lymphocytes, newly formed lymphocytes will be actually waiting in a queue for them to be tested. The thymic epithelial cells, like the one over here, will be induced to express almost all, not all, most of the peripheral antigens. A thymic epithelial cell which is not actually supposed to express nail antigen, hair antigen, tooth antigen, skin antigen, but here it will be induced to express most of the peripheral antigens, and each and every lymphocyte waiting in a queue will be tested whether they are mounting an immune response or not. So, whichever is mounting an immune response against self antigens will be negatively selected. That mechanism is called as clonal deletion, negative selection, receptor editing. So, whichever self reactive clone is found will be negatively selected, but this mechanism is not all that is perfect. So, cells do escape this mechanism, that is self reactive clones which is present in the body can escape this mechanism, can enter the periphery. At the periphery they have 5 levels of check. Right. 1, see for T cell activation how many signals are required? For a proper effective T cell activation, 2 signals. First signal is between MHC, APC ka MHC and T cells ka T cell receptor. Their in talk will result in signal 1 interaction. Signal 2 co-stimulatory molecules. So, when such self reactive molecules when they come into contact with the self antigen, the second signal is not delivered to them. What will happen if there is no second signal? That is called as anergy. So, such self reactive clones will become useless forever, they just wander uselessly, they cannot mount an immune response further. Other mechanism is the T lymphocyte having CD4 and CD25 on the surface. What are they? Regulatory Ts. What is their important role? They regulate the immune response. How do they regulate? They have a check on the self reactive clones. That is the most important, of course that is the only function they do, because that is the most important function. So, they have a proper check on such reactive clones, that is second mechanism. Third will be, so even if by mistake a self antigen expresses co-stimulatory molecules, second signal is delivered, after this, once when a self reactive clone gets activated, at that point they will be sensed as abnormal, and that time they will be induced to apoptosis. They will be sentenced to death through apoptosis. That is the third mechanism. Fourth will be, we have certain immune privileged sites in our body, where the antigens will not come across cells of the immune system. So, they no longer be, the immune cells of the immune system no longer be taught about such antigens, because they are not going to come across such antigens unless they are going to be traumatized. So, which are the immune privileged sites? Brain, testis, lens. So, these are avascular zones, mean they are not avascular actually, they do not have lymphoid supply, lymphatic supply. So, they will not come across cells of the immune system. So, the immune privileged sites, but they can be attacked when there is any tissue damage to this particular sites and when there is leakage of antigens. That time our immune system, as they have never come across this antigens during their maturation, they will treat this as foreign and will mount an immune response. Exactly, these are the mechanisms of peripheral T lymphocytes, and also we have certain set of inflammatory cytokines which are involved in suppressing the inflammation associated with autoimmunity. What are they? Anti-inflammatory cytokines. Good. Akshara, Sara, Anita. Good. Not CD10, Sara, it is IL-10. IL-10, 13, TGF beta. These are the anti-inflammatory cytokines. So, they again have a check on the auto self-reactive clones. So, you can also see non-self-reactive clones which are not mounting an immune response against self antigens, but have the capacity to mount an immune response against foreign antigens are considered as good immune cells, and they will be sent to the periphery, and whenever they come across foreign antigens they will do their destined role. So, when will a patient develop autoimmune disorder? Why should there be autoimmune disorders? When there is any failure of such mechanisms. So, when there is molecular mimicry, like what happens with rheumatic heart disease. Okay. So, when the microbes mimic like host tissues, antibodies are formed against the microbes, but will just to destroy host tissues. Super antigenic stimulation and microbial adjuvancy, all these conditions will result in autoimmune mechanisms. Endogenous, when there is altered antigen presentation, increased T cell help, increased B cell help, apoptotic defects, that is what is called as activation induced cell death. Even at that level they will be induced to apoptosis. When that apoptosis part is defective, such self-reactive clones will do their destructive role. Cytokine imbalance, when anti-inflammatory cytokine cell is, it's been given as TNF, it is not TNF, it is TGF. Altered immune regulation. Also, when there is loss of immunological privilege, happens with damage to brain, lens, testis. Presentation of cryptic epitopes, so far hidden epitopes getting exposed. Everything happens with loss of immunological privilege, alteration of self antigen, enhanced function of APCs. When they overact, antigen presenting cells overact, such thing can happen. So, autoimmunity mechanism includes all of the following except except molecular mimicry by microbes. Is it an autoimmunity mechanism? Yes. Hyperfunctioning antigen presenting cells. Next. Hyperfunctioning antigen presenting cells. Correct. So, it is a mechanism of autoimmunity. Antigen sequestration mechanism of tolerance, not autoimmunity. Receptor editing is a mechanism of central tolerance. Hyperfunctioning regulatory T cells, no such thing actually exists. Even if they hyperfunction, it is not going to result in autoimmunity. So, the answers are 3, 4 and 5. Characteristic feature of SLE. I think I will rush through these slides. Okay, let me not take your time. So, it is polyserocytis, which is a characteristic feature of SLE, and which is true about anti-nuclear antibody. Here you can answer. Anti-RNA antibody specific for SLE? It is anti-RNA antibody. It is anti-DNA, right? dsDNA is specific for SLE? Yes, anti-histone antibody in scleroderma. Okay, we will come back, we will just go through the chart, then we will come back. See, anti-nuclear antibody is the most commonly present antibody in SLE. Again, it is the most non-specific antibody rather. Then the most specific antibodies include anti-Smith and anti-double stranded DNA. Of the two, which is more specific? Smith specific, S for S. So, of the two, it is Smith antibody that is specific for SLE, and anti-histone antibody for drug induced, and U1RNP, you have mixture of alphabets, that is positive for mixed connective tissues. Okay, U1RNP for mixed connective tissue, and then DNA topoisomerase, top to bottom, that is sclerosis. So, systemic sclerosis from top to bottom. So, topoisomerase. Anti-centromere in localized scleroderma, localized sclerosis also called as scleroderma, that is focal centers, foci of sclerosis. So, anti-centromere for scleroderma. Topoisomerase, top to bottom sclerosis and systemic sclerosis. U1RNP, mixture of alphabets, mixed connective tissue, right. And antihistone, it is quite easy to remember for drug induced. And one thing, anti-RNP SS-RO-LA. When in a SLE patient, when such antibodies are found to be positive, then there is high risk of developing lupus erythematosus, which is the most common cause of death in SLE patients. Good. Akshara, Katija. So, LE cell formation is actually due to presence of anti-nuclear antibodies. I can go into the detail of LE cell formation now. So, the answer will be option 2 and option 4. These are the true statements of anti-nuclear antibody in SLE. Drug induced lupus, anti-histone. Anti-centromere in anti-topoisomerase, systemic sclerosis. RO-LA significance? Good, very good. Lupus nephritis, most common will be, say, nephritis, the most common and the most serious manifestation of, not most common actually, most serious manifestation of SLE, most common cause of death in SLE, violet lesions, a hallmark feature of SLE, most commonly seen in type 4. Full house effect is due to diffuse immunoglobulin deposition, that is very commonly seen in SLE, of course type 4. And violet lesions are due to extensive subendothelial deposits. They predominantly affect glomeruli, but interstitium can also be involved. These classes I can go through now. So, most common class 4, crescents may be present. Which type of RPGN is due to SLE? Type 1, type 2, type 3. So, type 1 good pastures, type 2 immune complex SLE, type 3 ANCA positive vasculitis, good. Lack of adhesion molecule, glucose adhesion molecule is associated with, I can go into detail of this. We have LAD1, we have LAD2. These adhesion molecules are involved in cellular events of inflammation starting from margination to transmigration. So, when they are absent, how much ever cells are produced by the body, by the marrow, they are not going to be recruited to this site of requirement. So, it is not in such patients, patients are going to have delayed wound healing. Just keep the explanation. So, the LAD1 associated with almost most of the symptoms associated with wound healing. LAD2, since there is deficiency of Cialis X, which is an integral part of blood group substance and also myelination, apart from delayed wound healing, the patient will be having mental retardation. And what will happen when there is deficiency of absence of precursor substance, blood group substance, precursor, Bombay blood group. So, lack of adhesion molecules associated with delayed closure of umbilical wound, Bombay blood group, MR. Which of these is characteristic of amyloidosis? We will just skip the explanation, we will just go to the answer. So, amyloidosis, beta pleated, fibrillary, congophilic, insoluble, non-branching. On electron microscopy, amyloid exhibits characteristically as, so beta pleated sheet is also a feature of amyloid. but the question is about electron microscopy. Beta pleated sheet is a structure, protein structure that can be seen with X-ray crystallography, mass spectrometry and all. But this on electron microscopy, this will be seen as 7.5 to 10 nanometer, non-branching fibrous. That's fibrils of indefinite length. Okay, identify the true statement. Multiple myeloma shows AL. AL, light chain production in plasma cell dyscrasias, right. Secondary amyloidosis always AA. AA deposition in secondary amyloidosis and familial Mediterranean fever. Again, secondary amyloidosis, chronic inflammatory disorder. Familial Mediterranean fever, chronic inflammation due to mutation in gene pyrin. So, this is continuous or frequent fever. And renal amyloidosis show AA. See, kidneys can be affected both by primary and secondary. If it is going to be primary, the deposits are going to be AA. Secondary, the deposits are going to be AA. So, kidneys can have any deposits. Renal amyloidosis commonly presents with mild proteinuria. Yes, renal amyloidosis present with proteinuria. Amyloidosis of kidney, proliferative or non-proliferative? Kidney size reduced or increased? So, it definitely does not come under shrunken kidneys, right. Involvement of kidney is the most serious form of amyloidosis? Yes, most common cause of death. Best investigation for diagnosing amyloidosis? Rectal biopsy was the best investigation 10 years before. Yeah, so now we do a less invasive technique called fat pad aspiration, and in that we do the stains and look for the amyloid deposition. So, if that does not give positivity for amyloid in a patient whom we suspect strongly amyloidosis, then we have to go for rectal biopsy or gingival biopsy, like that. Yes, we will just have few rapid fire round questions, then we will finish. NK cell markers CD16 and CD56. NK cell growth factor, I expect a rapid fire answers for this. Interleukin 2, I even showed you a picture, interleukin 2. Native cells are protected from NK cell attack by MHC1. Good, expression of MHC1. Good, Sarah, Anita. Most efficient APCs? Dendritic cells. MHC for CD4? You can't take such a long time. Co-stimulatory molecule on T cells for second sequence. This may be a bit difficult because I didn't stress on it. I just told co-stimulatory molecules. What exactly is good? CD28 on T cells. Receptors for B cells? Surface immunoglobulin. How APCs are able to recognize antigens? APCs are able to recognize antigens? Toll-like receptors. Activation marker for lymphocytes? Activation marker CD30. In 30 everyone will be active to earn money, just remember that way. Okay. Memory T cell marker? Memory T cell marker CD45 rho. Oh. Pan T lymphocyte marker? Good. IL-2 production is induced by? Through what they will induce? IL-1. IL-1 from macrophages induce IL-2 production by CD4 lymphocytes. Most potent eosinophilic activator? It's IL-5 or CD5. Yeah. Comment on the type of HSR. Aiha? Which type of hypersensitivity? You are not supposed to nod your head. Tell the answer. IHA is type 2. Plug in to find other power source. Okay. Sarcoidosis? Type 4. Granuloma type 4. Penicillin allergy? Type 1. Rheumatoid arthritis? Systemic immune complex disorder? Type 3. Graft applied anatomically abnormal sites? Heterotopic. In the direct pathway of transplant rejection, antigen is presented by? Good, and online students are coming up with very good answers. Correct. The direct pathway? direct, donor, dual, acute. The pathway responsible for acute rejection is direct pathway. Hallmark feature of acute humoral rejection, presence of C4b in the peritubular capillaries. GVHD is most commonly seen in bone marrow transplantation where the patients are severely immunocompromised. The organs affected in GVHD are skin, GIT, liver. HLA offering protection against type 1. Actually, we didn't discuss about this. It is HLA DR2. When you have such a haplotype, you are protected from having type 1 diabetes mellitus. Most specific antibodies in SLE, S. Smith, anti-Smith. Viral lesions are common in which class of lupus nephritis? Class 4, which is diffuse proliferative glomerular nephritis. Defect in LAD1, we didn't actually go to the explanation. It's integrins, beta 2 chain of integrins. Defect in LAD2, this I mentioned. Ciala Lewis X. CD4 CD8 normal ratio? Good. 2:1. Type 4 hypersensitivity reactions induced by which T helper cells? Type 4 by TH? Type 4 by TH1. The most important cytokine of TH1 response. Actually, it is for the epithelial cells development, it is interferon gamma. To sustain the population, TH1 population, it is IL-2. The more important cytokines of TH2 response, IL-4, 5, 6, IL-10, 13. Yes. Understood? Was it clear? What does this mean? You understood, pa? You have any doubts? Hope I made the concepts clear for the online students too. I would like to have your comments soon. Thank you for your patient listening.